Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Stay at Home STEAM with Mrs. Nicholson. Today we're going to be stacking liquids, and in order to do that we're going to be doing something called a 7-layer density column. When you think about density, mass is the amount of stuff that is in an object. Density is how tightly that stuff is packed together. So you can actually have different densities that allow things to sit on top of each other. So in one of our earlier ones, we made the lava lamp. We did oil and water, and you know oil and water don't mix, so they can actually layer on top of each other. Today we're going to do that with 7 different liquids. So it's kind of cool to do this. So our first layer is going to be honey. All right, so honey is our bottom layer, so that means it has the highest density. We're going to put about an inch at the bottom here. Okay, now on these first few layers, you're being very careful not to touch the sides of the container. That is important not to do. So we have our first layer is honey. Our next layer is corn syrup. And this is corn syrup. I just used a light corn syrup. I added some food coloring to it, some red food coloring to kind of differentiate the colors a little bit so you can see a little bit better in our column. Again, you're being very careful not to touch the side of your container, so do it very carefully and slowly. Okay, give it a little bit of time for that to settle. You'll see that it's starting to put the honey is staying underneath. Okay, our third layer is going to be dish soap. So where I'm using Dawn today, I like that it's a nice blue color, so it gives us a nice look at another layer. So again, we're going to be very careful on this one not to touch the sides and do this very slowly. You'll see it start to kind of go into the corn syrup a little bit, but then it will kind of bounce back up and sit on the top. Very cool to watch this. Okay, so you can see now we've got our first 3 layers. We've got honey, corn syrup, and dish soap. Okay, nice, beautiful layers there. Now is when it gets a little bit trickier because you're gonna do things a little bit differently. For our next layer, it's just water, basic water. And with each of these next layers, I'm going to use a turkey baster, which allows me to get it in there a little bit easier. Okay, now when you put on these next layers, you're going to be careful to do it carefully on the side. So this time we are going to touch the side, and we're going to do it squeezing a little bit at a time so that it gives it a layer that's going to sit on top of our dish soap. All right, a little bit more here. Try to run it down the side. This can get a little trickier. Okay, so if we look now, you can see our honey, corn syrup, dish soap, and water kind of look like a little bit of an orange layer. Okay, our next is going to be oil. And again, with this next step, you're going to use the baster as well. Make sure your water is completely out of it. You might need to rinse it between, that might help a little bit. So we're going to add our oil next. And with this one, we're going to use the side as well, with a little bit of it at a time. And as it's going in, do it down the side of the container. Beautiful. Okay, so you can see here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers. So we have 2 more layers to add. I'm going to put a little bit more of the oil in there. All right. Okay. So we've got our first 5 layers. Our next layer is going to be rubbing alcohol. And the rubbing alcohol is, I went ahead and colored green so we can see a little bit difference there between that and the oil that we just put in. And with the rubbing alcohol, again, you're going to use your baster. All right, get that in there. And again, we're going to use the side of the container again. Do it slowly so that can make our 6th layer on top of our vegetable oil. Okay, now final layer. Our final layer is what's called lamp oil. And so this is lamp oil that you use in the like kerosene lamps that people light, but this is something that has the least amount of density as all of them, so that means it can sit on the top. And if you guys look now, we've got a wonderful look at our 6 layers, and we're going to look at adding our final one. Okay. And here we go with our lamp oil. Now, I can't add food coloring to the lamp oil. It's going to be the color that it comes in, because the food coloring will not mix with it. Just like water won't mix with oil, food coloring is water-based, so it will not mix with this oil. So we're going to put our final layer. Very careful. And as we get that last layer on there, we will finish our 7-layer density column. So when people ask you, can you stack liquids? You can say, yes, you can. There's many different liquids that you can stack on top of each other. You just have to know the right order to do it. All right, so we have our final layer, which is our lamp oil. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna put a piece of white paper behind it just so you guys can see a little bit clearer our those 7 layers that were created. Okay, so one thing I would like for you guys to maybe do a little bit of research on, are there any other liquids that you could add into this, and where might they go in the column? And maybe a little bit more research on exactly what density is and how it works with our everyday life that we use things. So again, I'm hopeful that you guys can try this. You might not have all of these materials, but some of these you will have probably at home. For sure you guys can do the vegetable oil, I would think, and water. The dish soap and honey might be something that you would use as well. So again, our layers are honey, corn syrup, dish soap, water, vegetable oil, rubbing alcohol, and lamp oil. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. I've only done this one other time and I wanted to try it again, but I hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you on the next episode. Have a wonderful day.